All right, hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday. It was good to see some of you here last night for Tiffany and Kat's kind of time. Video go up and just more opportunities to kind of share with some partners in the community and help them do things, but also kind of present information that helps all of us. So the videos will be up soon. Uh, the CSA for summer, she said, is filling up fast. So when you see that information come up with the video or the links, feel free to move on that quickly. But it sounds like it's going to be a great thing and happy to do it. So shifting for us, it's a relational dimension week. We've been making our way through that, and to a degree, everything's been pointing so far to the next week, and this one was no exception for the relational dimension of wellness and how to do that. Recapping a little bit from the email on Monday, since we know that if relational social is this key part of who we are as people, and isolation and feeling alone are the kind of the enemies of that, writing about three key things that are going to help close that gap and help build and sustain relationships. The first was just intentional actions, right? Trying to say that, can you be in proximity to people? Can you think of even the smallest things to be able to do to connect with someone, to pay attention to someone, to be in an environment where other people are? One of those exercises this week is saying, hey, is there a random act of kindness you can do for somebody in your circle, whether that's your support network or just the places you go and the people you see regularly, whether you do that anonymously or you do that where you have time, effort, and some resources to help somebody else out. It's an example of the little steps that help close that gap and get you connected with somebody that's near you. It's not about numbers that you need like a half a dozen friends in order to have a satisfactory life. In reality, it's probably about three or four, even two and three that are deep and connected and ready to go, that will help people have an opportunity to not feel alone or to not feel isolated. The second thing that will help maintain those relationships that you do have is a selfless attitude. I think that not just isolation and alone being the opposite of friendship, the thing that can kill a lot of those contacts and potential deep friendships is when you're very focused on yourself or doing things thinking of your own needs first. It is hard to think selflessly and have an attitude that way, and so it's not shared lightly. But in reality, when that is a part of that relationship that's going on around you, it will allow it to kind of go deeper and be broader and connect with more people, because that becomes associated with how you interact with others. And that is a key way to close that gap as well. And then the final thing I wrote about was just this reality: when you have those friendships going, you can't take them for granted. This idea that there has been a bond made with somebody in your support network, in your family, in a relationship with a partner, whatever it might be. There's been a bond made through those actions, through the quality time spent together, through the things you've been able to do. But if you take that for granted, that bond that exists will be at risk. The thing I'll say often in the office is that everything tears apart at the primary relationships we have. The responsibilities we have, other distractions that we come across, again, that selfishness shows up every once in a while. We put ourselves first instead of the needs of somebody else important to us. So that bond is something to guard and protect. It's the reason why people say, well, after 20 years, we've just kind of grown apart. And they evaluate things, there's conflict, they evaluate separation or divorce in a marriage, I think is because of that bond has not been guarded the way it should be. It has not been prioritized the way it should be. But even you see that bond gets threatened when people take new jobs, and you're like, well, how do I stay connected with this person? A good friend moves away. How do I stay connected? You have a bond. How do you keep that up? It just takes a lot of that intentional action to be able to do that. And just trying to give an answer about how to continue to maximize that bond and do that. One of the other exercises was just share a meal with somebody this week that is out of your norm. Meal times are definitely a sign of priority, because you have to coordinate two people's schedules. At a meal that you're not rushing. So often people rush a meal because of their time or schedule. But when you schedule a meal with somebody, its chances are to go, maybe an hour, hour and a half. And in that time, you have a chance to apply a lot of these things that we've been talking about: transparency for yourself, a chance to be selfless and ask somebody else about what's going on, etc. So that's a foundation for this week. And this morning, just talking about a few other things that will help expand that and build that relational dimension for you. Came across an article from the Mayo Clinic that gave some suggestions about how to feed friendships, right? How to actively do that. And I think it fits about maintaining that bond and growing towards some intimacy. And I kind of added some of my own observations have gone in. So the first recommendation that this article said from Mayo was about be kind to other people, right? And just tweaking that out is the smallest actions are appreciated. When you know you've been in a situation where someone has shown you kindness, it makes you feel good. It makes you want to be able to reciprocate that for somebody else. So the more often that that can happen, and the more you can verbalize that appreciation, the more you can do that for others, kind of pass it along, it's going to have a big outcome on your relationships. Second one they recommended was be a good listener. It is not easy to be a good listener. But when you have an opportunity, one of the suggestions is kind of avoid talking about yourself in a situation or doing it all the time. Sometimes when people get nervous, they don't know how to listen very well. They get in their own head, they start thinking of their own answers, and there's a detachment. There's a difficulty in remembering what's going on. So being a good listener takes practice. That's where those meals come in, to be able to listen to someone over a period of time and be able to build that skill. Third one they say is open up. Around here, right, I like to say the word transparency, having some courage to take a risk and let know what's going on in your life. When someone asks how you're doing in that meal, you don't just answer fine and move on. You actually have an opportunity to say, well, here's what's going on. Here's what I'm learning at the gym. Here's something that was stressful or challenging this week. Because with that risk of transparency and having some courage, you take that relationship to a deeper level. Chances are that other person goes to that level with you, and you start to build that opportunity to be known better by somebody and to know them better, which is a rough definition of intimacy. The next one they recommend is show that you can be trusted, which I thought was a very good one to be able to have, because this is about this like confidential care you have. How are people going to be able to talk to you and share things if they think, well, now you're just going to go tell all the other friends we know or other people we have, and it turns in from a very special revelation into something that is perhaps gossip. I mean, it's hard to control a tongue, that's for sure, and it's hard not to be able to pass something on. So confidential care for somebody else for what they're going through or what their words were or something else will go a long way toward building that relationship. And then finally, they say, well, just continually make an effort to feed that relationship. I've described that just as either you're making regular offers for contact to get together, and maybe it's passing out lots about, hey, you're free this weekend, or you're free this week, let me know. And you're putting yourself out there, so you have to guard against feeling rejected, but it also sends this message to the other person that you have a passion and an interest for them. And when that exists, that's a good connecting point to be able to start and go forward and close that gap, again, from isolation of feeling alone or having just a surface level kind of contact that's hard to fight for. But if you have a bond with somebody, it's a good way to guard it as well, because you're continually reaching out to them, you're continually making offers, you're doing kind things for them, you're being transparent with your world, and chances are they're being transparent from their perspective too. All ways to make sure that this relational dimension is active, it's present, and it's growing. Because without it, everything in life pulls apart at relationships. You'll run out of time, you'll run out of the energy to talk to them, there'll be some kind of break or distance that happens, and it's hard to repair that without some more intentional acts that you can do on that behalf. This is perhaps one of the hardest dimensions to maintain because it involves another party. But it's such an essential part to who we are for our identity. The other dimensions we've talked about have been solely about what you do for yourself, and you can make that as healthy as possible. But here's where the relational part shifts to external aspects. You have to be able to know how to interact with other people. That's why it comes after the emotional awareness one last week, when we presented the idea that you have to be able to read other people and know how to engage them. Here's where you put it into action, the relational dimension. So some questions for us related to this. When I read those traits, I'll read them real quickly again. Be kind, be a good listener, open up, show that you can be trusted, or make an effort. Which one of those do you think has been the most crucial for you as people have built relationships with you? Which one resonates the most? being kind to you, when they're a good listener to you, when they open up to you, they show they can be trusted, or they continually reach out to you. Which one of those has been the most important to you to deepen your relationships? Trust, when they compassionately care about the things that you've told them. Yeah. Demonstrated they're consistent. Yeah. Others? Hmm. Right. Kindness is a foundation. Yeah. We don't tend to want to spend time with mean people. So it is good. Any others? Which one has been the most important to you? Yeah. Yeah. Well, that transparency though is important. Like people, if they feel that someone else is guarded around them, they probably mirror that guardedness. But if they see someone being open, see someone being vulnerable, generally most people will recognize that opportunity and treat it well, and they will mirror it. So those are good answers. But be thinking about that as it goes forward. Because if you have all the relationships you want right now, it's this question of what are you doing to maintain them? Because there is something working against those relationships. Again, time, distraction, responsibilities, other aspects of life. You have to maintain them and cultivate them, or else they're going to struggle. A question to be thinking about this week is that when you go through the course of your week and you're around different places, different groups of people, be able to identify where are my opportunities to deepen those relationships. And can you identify one or two people out of those groups and be intentional with them this week for that meal or for those acts of kindness? People will say, I have no potential for friends when they come and talk to me when we evaluate growing a support network. And then it's saying, well, where are you at? So we walk through a schedule, we look through the day, and we find out, well, where are you? Where are some places that are within your circle you could identify some of those relationships to close that gap relationally? Or are there places to connect and be able to go? We know that around here we push community a lot. We want people to invite others to come because then there's a chance for regular contact with others. It's just one example, but there's lots of other places to do that. So as you go through your week and think of here are the circles I am, here are the groups I'm a part of, where is an individual relationship to maximize, to build upon, to kind of really zero in on as you go forward, because it's going to be an important way to do that. Some final comments about this. The relational dimension is important. I've hinted at this before in other weeks, is because the positive things of your life, they get amplified in relationship with others. Because you can be excited, but when you have people to share that with, that excitement, that satisfaction, that quality, that passion and energy for life goes up because other people are sharing that in that emotional state, and they have relational interactions with you. They have common memories with you that allow that relationship to be deeper. Last week, I said that talking about emotions strengthens mental struggles, provides insight, and gives wisdom. Well, here it is echoed again this week that just talking with others allows you to do that, right? Because you're able to share the thoughts you have, and what you're doing is allowing other people to give their perspective, their insight, their identification, their experience, and add it to you. And that is one of those things in the courage to be transparent and share what's going on. That will deepen those relationships very quickly. And the final part about why this relational dimension is important is because these people act as safety nets for you. When something goes on, when something happens, you don't know what to do. If you've been cultivating these relationships, then you have plan A, B, C, or D, whatever it might be, to reach out and say, hey, I have something going on. If you've been cultivating that relationship, spending those meals, talking about things going on, then when something happens, you don't know what to do, you've already been used to saying to people, here's what's happening in my life. So when the big emergency hits, when the big need happens, you already have developed a pathway to tell someone, hey, do you have some time for me? Something happened. If you haven't been building it day to day and you get in that crisis, it's really hard to think, well, who am I going to talk to? What am I going to do? And that's why this relational dimension is important. So you're like preparing yourself for the future things that are going to come, so you have strength and connectedness and community when you need it. And if people think, I don't need anybody, it's just a matter of time before there's a life event that comes. It's unexpected, it's overwhelming, and costs something of you. And if you have at least one or two people you've been working on, you've been trying to grow that relationship, you've been establishing that bond, they will be that safety net for you as you go forward, which will just help solidify all of these other dimensions in that moment, because you have some help for the crisis. So it's a good week to talk about the relational aspect and kind of build on this application point of a lot of the other weeks. And as we go and make this halfway point through these 8 dimensions, they now start to shift toward these interactions with others in different ways, in different circles that we have. So good to see everybody this morning. Remember, have a meal with someone and be able to focus on some acts of kindness this week. Build those relationships so that you're ready to go when you need them. Thank you.